divulge all this knowledge and information. And apart from that, there are a lot of opportunities. And one of the things I also want to say is that as a student in the United States, there are legal pathways for you to also get your green card in the United States and also in Canada. I know a lot of people say, oh, I want to go to Canada because it's easy. It will shock you that it's even easier to also get your green cards. So there are a lot of examples or advantages of studying in the US, most especially. And one of the reasons why it's also easier to study in the US is because there are a lot of fundings in the US compared to Canada and all other parts of the world, because a lot of professors, they get a lot of research grants. And when they get all these research grants, they need students to work with them on these projects. And so they fund students in terms of teaching assistantship, research assistantship, and graduate assistantship. So what are the requirements for getting into the US and Canadian school? One of the things I want you to note is you need a very good application packet. You need a very good SOP. One of our facilitators, our guest speakers, Dr. Christie, is very good in that area. She will be talking about how to format your CV. She'll be talking about statement of purpose. She'll be talking about, personal statement as well. So those are critical to a very good and competitive application packet. Then you need very strong recommendation letters. I will leave this to our guest speakers. Dr. Emo will be talking more about it. Dr. IBK will also be talking more about it, and Dr. Christie. They will be telling you what makes a very good recommendation letter. Because one thing I want you to note is that when you're coming to the United States, you are competing with students all over the world, Asia, Australia, Africa, wherever. So you could be the very best student where you are coming from, but you are competing against the best and the very best. So all these things are very important. Then your transcripts, your personal statement, and GRE. The dynamics with GRE is changing, but we'll still talk about it. Some of our guest speakers will also touch on that. Now, the thing is, when should I apply to schools for admission? Usually for graduate studies, you can apply for fall and you can also apply for spring. Fall starts usually in August and spring starts usually in January. But a lot of times I always encourage people to apply for admission for the fall admission, because the fall semester is usually the major time that a lot of people apply for admissions. And there is also a lot of funding at that time. So while some people get in the spring, there is usually not a lot of funding for spring. So I always encourage that you target the fall semester. So when does the application for the next fall semester? So the fall semester for this year is already gone. So you cannot apply for the fall semester this fall again. But application for 2023 fall will usually start by September 2022. So for fall 2023, which is August 2023, the application usually starts by September, either late August, September 2022. That is for next year fall admission. And one thing about this, the application is that it's open until some schools will end application December 1st, some December 15th, some end of December, some January 15th, some February 1st, some March 15th. But on the average, most schools end their applications about January 15th. So for the fall of 2023 now, the applications will start September 2022, and most schools will end it January 2023, January 15, 2023. So when you start for your schools, you want to really track these application deadlines. Are there schools in the US and Canada that do not require GRE? Yes. There are schools in US and Canada that do not require GRE, but the schools that do not require GRE, because a lot of students, they usually want to shy away from writing the GRE. And as you are thinking, I don't want to write it, I want to look for a school without GRE. So other students from all over the world also want to target those schools. So the applications to those schools are large, voluminous. And as a result of that, it's always very tough. Your chances of getting into those schools are very slim. And one thing I want to tell you is this: a lot of Asian people from Asia, they always apply to this kind of schools, and they have this kind of lineage in these schools. For example, let me give you an example. They've been in this school, a lot of them have graduated from these schools, so they have like a lineage that, for example, the Chinese students, they do well in these programs. So if they see applications from them, and they see an application from me, for example, given that a lot of their students from Asia have passed through the system and they've done well, and everybody has kind of have the same thing in terms of performance, they will be more skilled towards giving admission and funding to them than to someone they don't know, because this is a game of probability, because they've not known you before. So it takes, so because of that, I always encourage that you apply, you do the GRE and apply to schools that, have done, require GRE. You may apply to those that don't require GRE too, but include your GRE scores. Because when it comes to that fierce competition, they could say, oh, this one has GRE and it did well, but even this one does not. So those are the things. So do you encourage me to apply to these schools without GRE? I encourage you, but make sure you write the GRE and include your GRE. What is GRE? GRE is Graduate Record Examination. Since the chances of getting into this school is very slim, please tell me more about GRE. GRE is Graduate Record Examination. Number one, you can write it at any time of the year. You can write at any time of the year. But when is the best time to write it? Being that a lot of applications close around January 15, you want to make sure you write it about 2 or 3 weeks before the applications actually close, so that they can also send in your GRE score. For how many years is GRE valid? It's valid for 5 years. How do you register for GRE? You can go to ETS, www.ets.gre.org. And you can find more details about registering. I know they usually register via credit card, and I think you can register for it. Where can you write it? You can write it in a lot of places in Nigeria. You can write it in Lagos. You can write it in Abeokuta. I believe you can write it in Ibadan too. For example, the school where I finished, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, they have a very good center, and they just started, writing the GRE there. And what do I need as a means of identification? Usually you will need your international passport, as a means of identification for them to let you into the GRE. So it's very important, and it's a computer-based test. It's a computer-based test. What are examples of good GRE materials? Very good GRE materials are Manhattan GRE, KMF, Princeton, Barron. There are a lot of materials, but given experience, the Manhattan GRE is very good. It comes in about 8 pack. Maybe I can talk to Pastor later. One of the things that happen is that a lot of times we don't have access to these good materials, which could explain the reason why some of us don't do well, even when we write it. So one of the things I'll be probably talking to Pastor Falodun about is how we can get copies of these books to Nigeria, for example, so that we can have access, maybe share it between each other, So what is a good GRE score? The GRE score ranges from 130 to 170. But on the average, I would say if you are not really, maybe your course is not really math oriented, you know, at least 150 in the verbal and the quantitative aspect, giving you an aggregate of 300 will be at least a good score to start with. But if you are like in engineering, a math related, statistics related, anything quantitatively related, you really want to do well in the GRE, you know, maybe Dr. Emo will be talking more about that, you know. So what GRE score should I aim at to guarantee a full funding? The higher your score, the better. The higher your score, the better. It makes your application looks better. So I would say the higher, but at least, you know, a 150 in each aspect could be at least a good starting point. So where can you take the exam? There are a lot of GRE centers. You can type it in Google. I know of Abeokuta, I know of Ibadan, I think Port Harcourt, Abuja. You know, a lot of major cities will have places where they take the GRE. Do I have to go to an institute for lessons on GRE? Well, it depends on your capability, but personally, I will say no. If you have access to all these good materials, you know, all what these materials really do is to kind of give you an hint of how to solve, you know, a math problem, giving you hints or like faster ways, because it's a computer adaptive test that it's time-based. So all it's trying to do is to teach you tricks, you know, of solving very complex maths within a very short time. So if you get access to these materials and you can really study, you really do well. So you may not need an institute, but if you're not confident enough, you know, you can still look for maybe where they write. I don't know where they teach lessons about GRE personally, because I don't feel you really need it, because all these maths are more of like basic higher secondary school maths to 100 level math that is not really complicated. I have been to the website of some schools in US and Canada, and they do require TOEFL. Do I also need to write TOEFL? I would say no, especially if you are from an Anglophone country like Nigeria, for example, or South Africa. You know, if you are from an Anglophone country, one of the things you can do during the admission process is to send an email to the graduate coordinator of the department you are applying to. Let them know you are from an Anglophone country, and that from your, you know, kindergarten to your undergraduate level, you were taught in English. You know, so they should waive the TOEFL for you. If they decide not to waive it, I will say look for another school where they accept TOEFL, basically. So I have a 2-2. Do I stand a chance of getting admitted and funded? So the US scale, basically, the US scale is from 0 to 4.0. Now I'm going to give an example of someone, you know, and yeah, one of our guest speakers just told me that Nigerian passport is an evidence to waive TOEFL. You know, so if you send them your passport and they see that you are Nigerian and they already know that Nigeria is an Anglophone country, you know, they can waive the TOEFL for you. So I would say push. I would say push for them to, you know, waive the TOEFL requirement for you. A lot of people have pushed for it and it's been waived. So I have a 2-2. Do I stand a chance of getting admitted and funded? I'm going to tell you a story of someone that is very close to me. He graduated from OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University. He had a 3.4 out of 5. 3.4 out of 5 is what we call 2-2 in Nigeria. So the first thing the person did was to do what they call WES. WES means World Evaluation Service. It's located in New York, in United States. We also have for Canada to West Canada. All they try to do with WES, there are other agencies like WES too that we could talk about later. But what West does basically is to convert Nigerian system of what do they call it? Of our grading system. You know, most schools, except a school like UI that grade from 0 to 7 for their GPA, most schools grade from 0 to 5. So they convert our grades from that 0 to 5 or 0 to 7 scale to 0 to 4 scale that is used in US and also probably in Canada. So one thing I want you to notice, this person that had a 3.41, when he did his West evaluation, he eventually was placed on a 3.09 on a scale of 4, which gives him edge, because usually an average graduate program will request a CGPA of 3.0 out of 4 for you to get into those programs. So by doing West, the person who had a 2.2, if we do his direct conversion, it will be under 3. But when he went to West, he had 3.09. So he was on a level playing field with all other applicants from all over the world. And when he was going to do the GRE, his graduate coordinator said no other person had the kind of GRE score he had. GRE score was over 1,700 at that time. He had 1,350. No other person in his program that year had it. So he came in with a full ride funding scholarship. You know, he's about rounding up his PhD. No, he has even rounded up, just waiting to graduate, because the person is very close to me. You know, so that is a pathway. Okay, even if I convert my CGPA via West and it's still not up to 3, there are some schools that require GPA of 2.5 for you to get into their graduate program, that require GPA of 2.7. All you need to do is go to Google and type in US universities plus 2.5 GPA plus graduate program. A lot of universities in the US will pop up that accept those CGPA bracket. So you can still get it done. You know, which kind of West evaluation should I do? There are 2 types. There's one that they will just give you your entire GPA, but I always encourage, if you are coming here, do a course by course West evaluation. That it will change all your grades. They will turn all your grades. Maybe in math you had B, maybe 76. In science you had maybe 80. They will do it course by course and say, oh, the 80 he had in science is equivalent to an A in the US, which is over 90. You know, they will do it. So that one is good, because when you are sending those transcripts via West, so when you do your West evaluation, you only need to send your West transcript. You just tell West to send it to the universities that you are applying to. So, and once they send it, they can see the breakdown of all your grades from your 100 level to your final year. So I always encourage, do the West course by course evaluation. That is the best, because it breaks down the courses you have taken and also show your grades by courses. So that is the one I would tell you to choose. Then another thing I want you to note, a lot of times now when you do West, they will send you a student copy. And a lot of what do they call it? A lot of graduate schools now, when you're applying, they will allow you to upload your student copy. It is when they've given you admission and funding that they do not tell you that you need to send original copy of your transcript. That is when you can now tell West to send your transcript to that school, so that you are not wasting a lot of money on the application process. Another thing I want you to say, a lot of schools in the US, they require you to pay application fee. But right now, there are a lot of schools that are waiving application fees as well. So you might also want to Google, and ask which schools waive application fees, so that you are not spending so much. How do I search for schools? A very good search engine is Google. For example, I'm an applied economist. So if I want to search for school in the US for applied economics, I would just say applied economics or agricultural economics plus US universities. Is going to bring a lot of universities that I can now go through them one by one. So that is a way to search for schools. It's also a way to also search for schools that waive application fee. And you can ask a lot of questions from Google. So what does funding entails? Oh, you've been saying, oh, funding. Okay, funding is a way by which when you say you get funding, it's a way of saying scholarship as well. And when we're talking about scholarship, usually in the US and Canada, if they give you scholarship, they will give you what we call, it could be in terms of teaching assistantship, it could be in terms of graduate assistantship, it could be in terms of research assistantship. And what does it entail? It entails, number one, tuition waiver. Tuition waiver means you are coming into the school and you will not pay tuition. It also entails health insurance, and it entails monthly stipend, which could be paid bi-weekly every 2 weeks. Now, what will you be doing for this professor? If you're a research assistant, you'll be doing research with the professor. It will give you research tasks to do, and you do it and meet with him maybe weekly or bi-weekly, depending on the professor. What of teaching assistantship? Teaching assistantship is such that, for example, if you're in chemistry and you're a teaching assistant, one of the things you do is, you go to the class, probably go to the class with the professors, and it will be for undergraduate classes. Maybe you have taken chemistry 101 before, and you are a TA for chemistry 101 class. As a graduate student now, you go to the class, you look at what the professor is doing, what he has taught them, you go over it, because your student can come for office hours and say, oh, my TA, I didn't understand what the professor was saying here. You will break it down, explain to them, and make sure they get the concept of what you're doing. So that is like, then teaching assistant also could entail something like lab activities, where you teach them what they need to do in the lab. You tell them the procedures and everything, and you also attend to them. That is really related to people in sciences, especially a place like chemistry or biology. So that is that. If I'm admitted and partially funded, would you advise me to pay? Okay, so let me quickly talk about, yeah, so that's TARA and GA. So let me quickly talk about the stipend. So the stipend is such that it's just enough for you alone. It will take care of you. That stipend, which is like your monthly salary from that GA or RA or TA, out of it, you can pay your rent. Out of it, you can buy your books. Out of it, you can eat. Out of it. So it's just enough for you. So for those of us that want to come with our family, you might need to show some proof of additional funding that will be able to take care of your spouse and your children when you come into the United States. If I'm admitted and partially funded, would you advise me to pay from my pocket? I will say no. Why am I saying no? Average tuition in the United States for a semester of about 3 to 4 months is $11,000. And if you are coming in for a master's, that is 11 times 4, just for your tuition alone. Health insurance per year could be as high as $2,500. Then average, if you get a very good place where it's not expensive, your average monthly rent will be about, it could be up to $500. If you don't eat too much, you'll be spending $200 to $300 on food every month. So you can imagine it's a lot of money when you convert it to, Nigerian Naira, for example. So that's a lot of money, so I would say, and we're going to be talking about what to do. So because of that, how do you apply? What type of schools do you apply to? Let me quickly talk on this a little bit. If you have done your undergrad in Nigeria and you are coming for masters, a rule of thumb when you are applying to schools is to apply to a school that has only a master's program. Why am I saying this? PhD is a minimum of 4 years in the US. Now, if you're applying to a PhD program a school that has a PhD program, usually because the PhD students will stay with the professors for a longer time and they can do a lot of research together and they won't have to be training and retraining. Those schools that have PhD program usually want to give funding to PhD students alone. So your chances of being funded in a program that has a PhD when you are going in for a master's is very low. So a rule of thumb is to apply to a program that have masters alone, number one. Number two, because a funding that will fund a PhD student will fund 2 master students who are going in for 2 years. So number one, those kind of programs have more funding to dish out to their master students than those that have PhD programs that don't even have, any funding at all for master students. So you have more advantage applying to programs without PhD program. We just have masters alone. And once you now finish your masters, once you finish your masters, you can now apply to other schools that have PhD program for your PhD if you still want to do your PhD. So that will be a rule of thumb. And by that time you have come in for your master, you'll have proven yourself that you did well in Nigeria, you also do well. Let me give you an example. When I was applying to schools abroad, I applied to the University of Alberta. Please, with all humility, I graduated the overall best graduating student in my entire school in 2006, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. And with that kind of, I had a GPA of 4.79 out of 5. So you can imagine where I'm coming from, to the glory of God. It's not to brag, people. And I applied to University of Alberta. They gave me admission. They did not fund me. Now, when I came into the US to University of Delaware, I finished with a GPA of 3.79 or 8, thereabout, out of 4. When I applied to Alberta again, University of Alberta in Canada, they gave me full funding. And I had to turn them down eventually to come to Florida because they saw I did well in Nigeria and I did well in the US. So my probability of doing well in their program is very high. So it was unquestionable. So that's why I give you an idea that just coming into a master's program in the US, get fully funded, prove yourself in that master's program with a good GPA, and you set up yourself for a top tier PhD program. So you mentioned that statement of purpose is one of the criteria. I will leave this for, the guest speakers to talk about the statement of purpose and personal statement. And Dr. Christy is very good in that area. I'm going to tell you, she's very good and very resourceful. She's reviewed a lot of things for me, my CV, my statements, my application package. So that is our area of specialization. Yeah, is it when you're applying for admission that I will also apply for assistantship, maybe teaching assistantship, graduate assistantship and research assistantship? Well, a lot of schools will say once you apply for admission, you will automatically be considered for funding. So you want to really read about the program you're applying to see whether you need to make a separate application for funding or they automatically consider you for funding. How easy is it, if at all possible, to get a fully funded scholarship for a master's program in the US? If you apply to a lot of, you apply to universities where your program there only has masters, you have a higher chance. Now, is BSc equivalent to HND, or can HND go directly for masters? Yes. In the US, once you do your WES evaluation, they equate your HND to BSc, and you can go directly for your master's program. I have a friend that did that. He had an HND, and when I met him in 2009 at the University of Delaware, he started all over again because some people told him that, oh no, I told him it's possible. He wrote the GRE. When he wrote the GRE, he got admitted into a master's program at Towson University. And today, he's well established, he's an IT guy, and he's doing very well, you know. So do I have to have master's before going to PhD? Yes and no. There are some programs, like if you did programs like chemistry, for example, and some engineering programs, once you finish your bachelor's, you can apply for a PhD directly. If you're a chemistry student and you did well, I would say don't apply for master's, just apply for PhD directly. You will get in, and for the next 4 years, you will be good. And there's a lot of funding in chemistry, you know, science related, chemistry, biochemistry, you know, and science related, there are a lot of funding. Can I apply for another course different from my undergraduate course of study for my master's? I would say no. Why am I saying no? Is this. See, the program in the United States and Canada, they are very rigorous, and they always want you to have a background of that particular program when you're coming in, because your funding will be dependent on being a research assistant or a teaching assistant. So they expect you to be knowledgeable. So if you are trying to switch, in fact, some of them wouldn't even admit you, even if you say you want to pay. So one of the things that people do when they come in, for example, let's say you want to come in for an MBA, for example, and you did maybe chemistry in your undergraduate, one of the things people do is to come in as a chemistry PhD student, and when they come in, they get funded. And as they are taking, at some point, you finish taking classes and you focus on research for the next 2 years to finish up. While they are doing their research, they will still be paying fees. They will be paying tuition. So some people, rather than just waste that tuition on research alone, they could start taking 1 or 2 classes in business school, and they will be paying for it via their chemistry department will be paying for those classes. And at the end of the day, they are getting their PhD and also getting their MBA. So that is one of the ways that you can do, is you can get it done. Is there any advice that you can have for students who are interested in courses that have little or no funding? So there are some courses that have little or no funding. For example, medicine, for example, you know, public health, MBA, those things. That is one of the ways that I've just explained to you. A lot of people that did medicine in Nigeria, usually the route they used to get into the American system is to come for a master's in public health. And when they come in for masters in public health, they start shadowing, volunteering in their school's university hospital. And from there, they are doing public health, they are doing that. Then they start preparing for the MSLE exam that they need to do, is like a certification exam for them to be able to get residency in the US. And that is the pathway that some people enter the system. I'm not going to dwell on that too much right now because we have limited time. I believe you are putting in your questions and we're tracking the questions. So right now, I would like to hand over. I've given an overview. If you have questions, okay, for those people that are talking about undergraduate, for example, let me quickly touch on undergraduate. It's expensive. There are really no funding for undergraduate students in the US. You have to pay out of pocket. But there's a very good route if you want to come for undergraduate. You have to do SAT, which is equivalent to the GRE. And you have to do, you have to have a very good SSC exam result. But another pathway to circumvent all those is to come to community colleges. Community colleges is similar to what we call polytechnics in Nigeria. And I think the only requirement for the community college is a very good SSC result. And again, the community college are cheaper. You know, for example, in the university, if you're paying 11,000, maybe in the community college, per semester as an international student, you'll be paying like $5,000, and after the first 2 years, you can now transfer to a university to continue your third and fourth year, and sometimes there are even some community colleges that award bachelors. For example, Santa Fe College awards bachelors in nursing. So you can even do everything in that community college. So that is just something to mention. Yeah. So right now, okay, Dr. IBK will be coming so let me give the stage to Dr. IBK. Please, can we unmute Dr. IBK to just say something, and I'll go to Dr. Mho. Dr. IBK, please, can we unmute Dr. IBK to say something? So one of the things that you'll be expecting from Dr. IBK, Dr. Mho, and Dr. Christie. Dr. IBK is an assistant professor of our biotechnology. He'll be saying more about, he will be adding flesh to what I've run through, and he's going to be talking more about how do you write a cold email to a professor? What makes a competitive application? What is he looking for, or what do professors look for in a very good student? What are the requirements, or what is he looking for in your statement of purpose or personal statement? Over to you, Dr. IBK.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Femi Bolaniwa. And I really want to appreciate Pastor Falodun and other guest speakers for giving us the opportunity to partake in this initiative. Dr. Femi Bolaniwa has said everything that I need to say, but I need to add some other things. One is the key to securing a graduate placement. One of the major keys to securing a graduate placement is a very strong GPA. And when I say strong GPA, okay, it does not mean that it has to be the cumulative GPA, right? Some schools give more emphasis to your last 4 semesters, to the GPA of your last 4 semesters. Take, for example, we have some students that maybe have 5.0, 4.7, 4.5, even anything more than 4.0 in their first and second years, right? But in your third and your fourth year, you did not do well. They have to see a gradual improvement in your GPA from your 100 level to your 400 level. And also, we are looking for a very diverse CV and a flawless personal statement. I'm sure Dr. Christie will talk a lot about personal statements. If you have publications, it is always very helpful, but not required. We understand that most undergraduate students do not have the opportunity to publish with their advisors. And even for those that have opportunities to publish their advisors, we all know how it is done in Nigeria. So in the US, apart from a good GPA and high marks on this GRE, we also look at extracurricular activities that you are involved in. We also look at that because the strength of your application document is determined by those that you are competing with in that application cycle. Some people may be lucky, as in we all pray for luck and grace. Some people may be lucky to apply in a cycle in which they do not have very strong applications. But I can bet it with you, almost every cycle has strong applicants from all over the world. We are looking for students that is not all about school and work, but a person who is active, but a person who is active and enrolled in volunteer groups and sport clubs. Now, there are some programs, especially in my school, that require personal interviews. Personal interviews, especially when it comes to graduate assistantship and admission into PhD. What you have to know about this is that you have to show your passion and be well informed about the research work of your interviewers. That is what they really need. They understand that you are just an applicant for a degree program. They do not expect you to know everything about what you are coming here to do, but they want to see that you have at least prepared in some ways, as in to look for some information about all these interviewers. You need to show them that you care about the position and they should choose you, and why they should choose you over other several candidates. One very important observations that I've seen among applicants, because I deal with a lot of Nigerian students too. I have some Nigerian students in my lab. Some applicants that have sent me a lot of emails, they always limit themselves to attaining only the minimum requirements. Please, if you can, don't limit yourself to attaining only the minimum requirement. Dr. Bolaniwa talked about GRE, and a lot of schools do not require GRE. And he said that it is very important for you to take GRE. If you have the means, please take GRE. I have some colleagues that have stated that they will only admit and fund students who deem it necessary to write GRE. Because writing GRE shows some level of seriousness, right? And it shows that you are ready to get admitted immediately. And a lot of, as in 90 to 95% of applicants from Nigeria currently do not write GREs. And for you to have written GREs, we give you an edge over other applicants. If you have the means, it's not required, but if you have the means, I will advise you to take GRE and even the test of English, especially for those that are applying for teaching assistantship. I know these exams are very expensive, but I really advise those of you that have the means to write those exams to do so. Another advice I would like to give to those applicants is to start searching for the graduate programs that you will apply to ahead of time. Okay, we have some programs that have their deadline as far as 1 year before, and some is 6 months. Okay, you start, for those of you that are ready to write the standardized test, start preparing for the standardized test at least 7 to 8 months before the application deadlines. Do not wait until a professor tells you to go and write the exam before you do so, please. Apply to more than one university. Mm-hmm. Do not apply to one. Apply to more than one. It is very important. Apply to more than one. And look for, and now that a lot of universities are now waiving application fees, apply to more than one. You can apply to as many as 5, even 7, 10, if you have the means, okay? And the good things about universities is that they are now accepting unofficial documents to make application decision. So if you have all those unofficial transcripts, a personal copy of your words and everything, they will use that to make application decision. And if you're admitted, then they will ask you to send in the official document. For those of you that I know I've known a lot of applicants that got more than one, more like 5, 6 schools that they were admitted to. One very important thing you have to note in choosing a school, especially if you have more than one university that have admitted, okay, you have to, you have to consider the faculty member that is admitting you. One, especially for those of you that are that have been offered research assistantship. The most important person in your life, apart from God, during your PhD, is your advisor.
Yeah.
after God, the most important person that can make and marry you, that will determine your career, your progress here in the US, is your advisor. If you are lucky to have more than one admissions to different schools, consider the faculty member and the quality of the research. And also consider the quality of papers that have been published from that lab and grants, because it is very important. Since you have options, you have the choices to make. It is very important for you to do that. Another one is the tuition, stipend, living costs. Can you make it through the amount of money offered? You have to consider that too. A school in California may offer you, and you have another one that maybe, let's say, University of Georgia, okay, or Augusta University. And a school in California is offering you $25,000 as your stipend, and the one in UG, Georgia, is offering you $22,000. $22,000 in Georgia would take you farther than $25,000 in California. You have to consider the tuition, stipend, and living costs. This is for those of you that will have more than one offers from universities. So I will quickly allow Dr. I don't know who is speaking next.
Yeah.
Dr. Christie or Dr. Emo.
Yeah, Dr. Emo will be speaking now.
So,
before I hand over to Dr. Emo, I just want to quickly follow up on what Dr. IBK said. The living standard in California is high. So 25,000 in California is maybe equal to like 15,000. That is, somebody in Georgia that has 15,000 could be better off than somebody earning 25,000 in California. So don't look at the money when it comes to taking those decisions if you have multiple offers. That is what Dr. Ogunade is trying to say. So now we'll be handing over to Dr. Emo. Dr. Emo is an assistant professor of mathematics. As I told you earlier, I've known him for over 20 years. We did bachelors together. And, you know, he was one of my guides when I was, you know, transitioning to the United States. And he's a really good resource. Over to you, Dr. Emo.
Thank you, Dr. Bola. Also, Dr. IBK. I think I really enjoyed what you guys have said so far. Thank you also, Mr. Falodon, for the invitation to be able to talk here today. I'll try to shed more light on what Dr. Bolariwa and Dr. IBK have said so far. It seems they've mentioned practically almost everything you guys need to know. But so I would like to talk about what to look for in a graduate student, what makes a statement of purpose competitive, and talk about your GRE. Why is GRE important? Why do universities talk more about GRE and so on and so forth? So first, what to look for in a graduate student? As for me, well, I teach in a university here in the Department of Mathematics, and we have, as part of our master's program, a program in mathematical biology. So if you're submitting your application to my department, the first thing we want to look for, because we specialize in some particular area of mathematics, is which of the courses in mathematics have you taken? So when it comes to mathematical biology, I want to see something about differential equations in your transcript, or something that has to do with maybe real analysis or linear algebra or something calculus related. So when you are taking a course in school, I think back in Nigeria, you probably don't have much option to choose a course except some elective course. Make sure you know your goal in the future. So if you want to go for your master's degree, you should by now know which of the discipline you want to apply to. Do I want to work in the field of mathematics? If so, do I want to focus in number theory or differential equation related course? Or if so, then what are the courses I need to take to implement or supplement what I have so far? So we look for the type of courses you've taken in your transcript. If I'm just saying you're taking all computer science course in your transcript, then I'm going to ask myself, why are you applying for a mathematic program? Because I'm supposed to be seeing more of calculus and real analysis, or courses that has to do with theorems or proving theorems and so forth. And also, I would like to see what your research interest is. So you are coming to a graduate program. The main reason you are coming for a graduate program is because you are interested in doing some kind of research. So you should be able to convince whoever is reviewing your application that you are really interested in a particular field, in a particular research field. So don't just submit your application, throwing your options out there, expecting your reviewer to just decide or choose for you. Even if you cannot narrow down, at least try to convince your reviewer that you are interested in this field of mathematics or in this field of course, and this is what you've done so far during your free time. Maybe you try to prove some particular theorem, or maybe you try to write a little story about something. Just try to convince your reviewer that you are not just someone who is coming to depend on the professor. You can, to some extent, be independent enough to carry out some particular research on your own. And the third thing reviewers will want to look at is how independent the student can be. Because just like what Dr. Bolari was said, there are three types of position you can get here. One, you can be a TA. Two, you can be a GA. TA means a teaching assistantship. A GA means graduate assistantship. And then RA means a research assistantship. So most of all these three, you will be working under probably an advisor and then be doing your research at the same time. So if your advisor assigns a work to you, maybe you guys are doing a particular research and the advisor say, go back home, go work on this particular research, and then let's meet maybe in 2 days or 3 days time. Are you someone that is able to complete your work on time? Or are you going to come in after 2 or 3 days telling your advisor, I'm sorry, I couldn't complete these because I don't even know what to do? Even if you don't know what to do, you should be able to do something or try to convince your advisor that you are really trying, you just need some little help or so. So your advisor, your reviewer wants to see how independent you could be. Just try to convince your reader that you can be as independent as much as possible. Or give an example of what you've done before during your free time and how you were able to achieve your goal. It could just be a little story of what you've done before. Just try to convince them. And also, most importantly, your reviewer wants to know, because you can try to sell yourself to the reviewer or the person reviewing your application. But the best way a reviewer can be convinced is if your referee vouch on your behalf. So whoever is writing your letter of recommendation should be able to vouch for you about how good you are, or maybe they have a personal experience with you. Maybe most importantly, if you're asking someone to write a recommendation letter for you, let it be one of your professors. Don't go ask your daddy's friend or maybe someone who you've not taken a class with before to write a recommendation. They can write you a personal recommendation letter, but not academic recommendation letter. Because I want to know that you've taken a course with someone and the professor is able to vouch for you that while taking his class, you were maybe a very good student, if not the best student, and you are diligent in your work, you come to class regularly. So your referee should be able to vouch for you up to some extent in your recommendation letter. So try as much as possible to use referee that are your professors or someone you've taken at least a class with in the past that can write about your performance in that particular class. Okay, so next, let me quickly talk about how competitive a statement of purpose should be. I think I've hinted some of these in what I mentioned before. When you're writing a statement of purpose, the first thing you want to let your reviewer know is why you are applying for that degree or why you are interested in that school. So you want to be able to convince whoever it is on that other end that you are really interested in this degree. Tell them your passion. Tell them what you've done in the past, what makes you like that particular program you're studying. As for me, when I was small, I liked numbers. I like to play with numbers. Even when I was very young, in my secondary school stage, I write a lot of papers. Well, I didn't send them for publication. I even wrote a paper I titled Tangent Rule because, well, that was the week following the week I studied, or I learned about the sine rule and the cosine rule. So I figured, why not come up with what a tangent rule will look like? So I really write a paper, but didn't submit it. So some of those are some of the things you want to include in your recommendation. Try to let your reader know what your passions are, why you're interested in the degree, and what makes you come into that field of study you want to apply for. And also, your statement of purpose should be able to talk more about your background and your research interests, just similar to what I just mentioned shortly. So tell them about your research interests. You should have some particular area of research you are interested in, maybe number theory in mathematics or something that has to do with applied mathematics or something, maybe cryptography. Just hint. You don't have to say that in details. Just hint it a little bit so that, because there are times where maybe the department doesn't have a funding. Some of us faculty members applied for grants, maybe NSF grants or NIH grants. So we usually or sometimes have some money in our pocket that we want to use. We need to use it because if we don't use those money, those granting institutions will take back their money. So if, for example, I have $20,000 in my account for funding, I need to be able to use that $20,000 within that particular academic year, which means I need a master's student to work with me. And if I'm looking for a master's student to work with me, maybe in the field of mathematical biology, I need a student to be able to convince me enough about his or her background. Have you taken some particular courses that might help you succeed well if you were to work with me? If you tell me you've not taken differential equations and calculus before, there is no way I would trust you to be successful to work with me. So tell them about your background, what you've done so far, although your transcript will say more about you, but you can still hint about your weakness, your strong points in your statement of purpose, and also tell them about your relevant experience, maybe in your field of study, and also your accomplishment. What have you accomplished so far? Just like what Dr. IBK said, published paper is not a requirement, but if you have some paper you published, even if it is not published, maybe you just wrote a paper, you didn't publish it, but you wrote it and then you kept it somewhere, put those things, those informations in your reference letter. Let your reviewer know that you are someone who is independent enough if you are to work with them. So relevant experience, accomplishment, and your professional goals. So if I were to hire you or employ you to work under me in the research interest, what do you think in the research? What will be your professional goal? What do you want to use your expertise to accomplish in the future? Is it just like, oh, I'm coming to do this because I couldn't get a job in Nigeria, so the best thing I can do is just come to US to get a master's degree so that I can make more money? Nobody is going to hire you or accept your application if you say something like that. But you can convince the reviewer why you are interested in that particular position. Maybe it's something you love doing most of the time, and once you graduate, you want to be able to better your community, or you want to be able to use whatever you've learned to help the world as a whole. Something like that sells a lot in a recommendation letter. So try to convince whoever is reading your recommendation as much as possible. And also reviewers want to know how you can perform under pressure. So if, for example, you are given a lot of work for the week, and then you have to meet the professor in 2 or 3 days, how can you adjust your time to meet up with whatever your advisor is expecting of you? Are you someone who complains a lot because you think you have too much to do within a particular limited time? Or are you someone who knows how to manage their time? So you can also include a little information about that if space permits. So those are the things that might help that can increase your chance of getting an admission here in the United States. And I think Dr. Bolarinwa and Dr. IBK have said the rest of the things I would have loved to say. So I'm going to hand over the mic back to Dr. Bolarinwa. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Emo. Please note questions are still coming. They are compiling the question. So right now, I'll quickly hand over to Dr. Christie. Dr. Christie will be talking extensively. She will be putting flesh on some of these things, adding things, talking about cold email, CV, what makes a competitive student, what do you look for in a student, SOP, personal statement, and what makes a very strong recommendation letter, just like our previous speakers. Dr. Christie, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. And good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with everyone. I consider it a privilege to be here talking to everybody. So thank you so much. And thank you to Daddy Falodun. We appreciate you for putting this together. God bless you, sir. So I've been asked to talk about a couple of things, but some of these have been talked about already, like the cold emails. From what Dr. IBK and Dr. Emo have said, you should be good with cold emails by now, especially with what Dr. Emo just said. You really need to convince the professor you're talking to, go straight to the point. You know, this is not just something, this is not generic. Like I always said, don't do anything generic when you're applying to schools. Don't send the same statement of purpose to all the schools. Don't just write one statement of purpose and you're just changing the names of the school in between your statement of purpose and sending it out. That's not going to work, because what each school is looking for, what each department is looking for is very different. So you have to consider that. And like Dr. Ibike already said, there has to be evidence that you researched about this school, about that program, about the faculty there. And when we say faculty, we're talking about the professors and their specializations and things, and you tailor your statement of purpose accordingly. And this is going to be different from school to school. So let's start with writing your SOP, which is statement of purpose. I need to know that some schools will ask separately for a statement of purpose, and some schools will ask for a personal statement. There are some schools that will ask for both. That is to let you know that those are two different things. A statement of purpose is basically about your purpose. And what is your purpose? You want to come here, why? You want to tell them, this is why I want to attend this school. I'm applying to University of Florida. These are my reasons. I'm applying to this specific department for these reasons. This is why I think I qualify. So everything has to be tailored to what you want to study, why you consider yourself a good fit for that course in that school. So when they ask for personal statements, that is different. Personal statement is where they want you to talk about your personality. So when you find a school that asks for both, just know that that's the difference. And like Dr. Emma was just saying, when you are writing your statement of purpose, one, you want to start with a hook statement. Don't just, okay, I'm going to read out something. I was going to share my screen before, but let me just read this out and see if you can.
You can share it, Dr. Christie. You do have access to share.
Okay. All right, that's true. All right, share screen. Can everyone see my screen now? Can everyone see my screen now?
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
All right, so I have this here. Look at this statement of purpose here. Look at the hook. I'm highlighting this for if everyone can read it. Is it clear enough or is it too tiny?
It's clear.
This is when I was 11.
Can you
my
maximize your screen, please? Yeah, on both sides. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So look at that. This is just 45 words. When I was 11, my aunt passed away, left me something that changed my life, a library of about 5,000 books, this, and that, and then I wanted to be a librarian. Now look at this. This is another opening paragraph, also 45 words. I'm honored to apply at the university because as long as I remember, I have had a love affair with books. Since I was 11, I've known I wanted to be a librarian. One is stronger than the other. So when we're talking about hook, that's what we mean. The first one is stronger. This, anybody can want to be a librarian for as long as they remember. But someone has something like a personal experience that lives with them, that they have that they can say they have a kind of attachment to, that this is the reason why I want to do this. Maybe you had a family member. I'm just saying, these are just examples of statements of purposes I've seen. Like, oh, I had a family member that passed away from cancer. And the reason why I'm considering cancer research is because, you know, they couldn't figure out all these, you know, things like that. Personal, that's what we mean when we say hook. Don't just come up with a generic. And another thing is this paragraph right here that I highlighted is very flowery. Sometimes we think that by hyping the schools, they will like us. Don't just know that every other applicant is hyping that same school. I'm applying here because this is the best university in the US. A million other applicants have said the same thing. So tell us something different, something to convince us on why you're applying here, on why you're applying to study, why you're interested in this particular thing. So start with your hook, introduce yourself professionally. This may sound very funny, but I have reviewed so many statements of purposes where people start to talk about their age, their gender, their this, their that. And I'm like, okay, in this age and time, if you still have that on your resume, all this age and gender thing, please remove. Someone just sent one to me last week and they even have like a passport photograph on it of themselves. They have passport photograph, they have date of birth, so, marital status, so, at this age and time. If you have all that, I beg of you, just delete. That is not professional at all. Introduce yourself professionally. My name is so. I graduated from this. I am currently working at these. I'm currently doing research in this area. I'm currently doing this. Introduce yourself like someone who is situated and ready for the next challenge that you're applying to. This is not a personal level yet, so ignore that. And another thing in your statement of purpose, you have to highlight your accomplishments. Highlight your academic and your industry accomplishments. Highlight your academic and industry accomplishments. Did you graduate best student in your department? Please lay emphasis on that. Did you win an award? Please lay emphasis on that. It is important. That may be the only thing that will give you an edge. Maybe you're at the same cutoff line with the last candidate. They're only going to admit 6 candidates. They've identified 5 others who are better than you, and now you are tying with someone else and they need just 1 more. Maybe that's going to be your own saving grace. So highlight your academic accomplishments. In your statement of purpose, talk about not all the courses that you took as an undergraduate student. It's not all those courses that you looked at and they were so interesting and whatever. There must have been one course specifically that maybe gave you your aha moments that makes you want to specialize now. For example, I am in mass communication, but I specialize in public relations, not advertising. So when I write my own statement of purpose, I'm the kind of person that would say, I took this particular course, it opened my eyes to so areas, and this is why I developed my own specific interest in public relations, or why I developed my specific interest in health communication. So that's why I said, don't make generic statements. I'm just interested in mass communication. There are several specializations within mass communication. And that relates a lot to what Dr. M.O. was saying about, I'm not in mathematics anyways, but I know you mentioned some things like differential, whatever. You can help me, sir. I can't remember. But like, I'm expecting you to
differential equations and real analysis.
Like I'm looking for those specific courses. So which means you can't just generically say I'm applying to maths because I'm good at numbers or this and that. No, it needs specific things. So you have to be specific. That's what we're saying with SOPs. That's why your SOPs can never be generic. So what's the other thing? When I said I highlight your accomplishments from the academic perspective and the industry perspective. Wherever you're currently working, or even if you're currently just working for yourself, doing business or whatever, what have been your initiatives? You can say you've been working, okay, fine, you've graduated, you've probably been working for those who have graduated, I'm sorry, I'm trying to stop. Okay, you've probably been, maybe you've been working somewhere the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, have there been any initiatives that came from you? They want to hear that because they want to know that this is someone that is mature enough that can work independently, that does not need 100% supervision. Trust me, no professor is looking for a student that they will be telling, they will be reminding of everything, that cannot think for themselves and know, sometimes it's good when you're able to think ahead of your supervisors. Your supervisor is about to remind you to do this and you've already gone a step ahead. That's the kind of professors, that's the kind of students professors are looking for. Not students that are going to be reminding of every tiny detail. You have to do this, so you should be thinking of this. No. Show that you have initiative. Show that you can be innovative. Have you led your team to do something? Like I do tell my students, if all you're doing is to just manage social media for even a small business, you have a makeup business, fine, you're managing social media. I'm just using that as an example. What have you been able to do? Oh, I've been able to drive engagement by a 100% increase between January, and that is significant. I'm in communication, I teach social media. So for us, that's important. So in whatever field you are, be able to say, this is what, your achievements, no matter how, they may sound little to you, but they're significant. Put them right there. Now, I'm not saying dump everything there. Like, I graduated top in my primary school. No, we're not looking for that. That's not what. Highlight the best of your achievements and put them there. If you were the overall best in primary school, that's a good one, but it's no longer relevant at this point. That's what I'm trying to say. So that is for statements of for statement of purposes. You want to talk, like I said, start with a hook, introduce yourself professionally, highlight your academic and industry accomplishments. Then you need to, in your statement of purpose, you also have to have at least one paragraph that talks about, everything has been about you, your hook statement, your telling us about yourself, your background, your maybe job experiences that complement your academic background and things like that, your accomplishments academically, industry, fine, good. Now, I always say include at least one paragraph that talks about why you're choosing that school. It's not just about you. They know there are many universities. Why do you want to come to us and not to the other university? Why are you choosing this department? And you can only do that, you can only write that if you have done your research. Go to the school website, go to the department website, look through the profiles of all the professors. It could be because their specializations match exactly with your interests. They've got the facilities or whatever, for those in the sciences. You should have something. At that point, it's okay to hype them, but don't do it too much. Because when you do it too much, it's also a red flag. You should, what I'm saying basically is have a paragraph that talks about why you're choosing that school to come to. Now we know why you want to do what you want to do, but why are you choosing us? Then you want to have at least one paragraph that talks about your future goals. And Dr. M already talked about that, so I'm not going to bore us with that again. You have to let us know what are your professional goals. Be concise when you write. I know in Nigeria, we like to talk a lot, but when you write here, be concise, go straight to the point. Too many words will not help you. Why? Because these professors, they've got a lot of research, they've got a lot of teaching to do. They have other things to do, so don't expect that the people reviewing your application packets would be willing to spend the next 10-15 minutes just reading your statement of purpose. If they are very kind and very generous, they might spend 5 minutes. They have a lot of applicants. So be concise, go straight to the point. That is for SOPs. For CVs, I usually say there's a difference between academic CV and industry CV. When you are sending, some schools will ask you to upload your resumes. When you are uploading your resumes for school application, the way you arrange the stuff on your CV should be different, in the sense that we are looking to see, all right, let me share my screen again. I am sorry, just give me a minute. I'm trying to find the document I was working with. I'm sorry, please. I don't seem to be able to find it, but it's okay. Oh, okay, I found it. Okay, we can all see this screen here. When you are sending out your CV, this is an academic CV. Start with your education. Start with, well, education here, if you have certifications, follow with certifications. If you have publications, follow with publications. Not with your job experiences yet. Because you're not applying to a job, you're applying to a school. When you are applying to a job instead, that's when I say you can do something like this. This is an industry CV, where the first thing I want them to see is an highlight of what I have done as a professional. It's different from here where I start with my education. This, I am telling them, this is the foundation I have to continue in school as a student. This, I want to first throw it in their faces, an highlight of what I have done. My achievements, just like my SOPs where I say, highlight your industry achievements. What did I do? I did this, I did that. We know, with emphasis in, with dates, specific emphasis like that. So when you are sending your CV, this is the kind of thing you should do. Now, another thing is be very professional with it. Look at this place. It has name. Is that your name, your work, whatever. Now, this same headline is what is here. That's professionalism and that's consistency. Let it be the same even on your statement of purpose. Even on your statement of purpose, have it like that. So when you're submitting your application packets, let that consistency run through all the documents that you are putting out. Don't let it look like this is something that you just did in a rush. Like you remembered 5 minutes to the end and you just put something together in Word documents, no proofreading, no whatever, and you're just dumping it there. Just remember that some people have taken months to prepare for this and they would pay attention more to those people. Because it's even a sign of unseriousness when you do that. They don't want to deal with you. So it's not enough to have the excellent grades, but you have to have you have to present yourself as an excellent person as well. So that's for CVs. We've talked about CVs, SOPs. I've talked about the difference. So for personal statements, when you are writing your personal statement, if schools request personal statements, that's when they want you to talk more about not your academic background as such. You may make a little bit of reference to your academic background, but a lot more emphasis on your own personality, how you handle situations, how you work in teams, how you work with people, collaboration and things like that. That's the more of the things we want to see in personal statements. Now note, you write personal statements when schools request for a personal statement apart from statement of purpose. Some schools will ask for both. So when they do that, you want to start talking more about how you work well with teams, your time management skills, how you handle pressure. Because trust me, studying in the US, sometimes I think it's a test of endurance. Because as far as content, the way they load us with content here, I think they load us with content as well in Nigeria, but here it is a lot of content within a very short amount of time. So it is how much you're able to handle that pressure within that very short, and that thing starts with your GRE exam. GRE is not difficult. I think GRE is not difficult. It's just that the time you have and the amount of things you have to do within that time and how you are able to handle it without breaking, it's a test of endurance. So how you are such a good candidate that can handle the test of endurance and come out of that test of endurance successfully is what we want to see in your personal statement. So emphasis on personal statement is also not a statement for you to talk about your family, your wife and children, or your husband. No. It's more to talk about your personality and how your personality is a good fit for teamwork, for independent work, and for working under pressure. Again, I say personal statement is where you talk about how you're a good fit for teamwork, for independent work and for working under pressure. In that personal statement, you can give instances of situations where maybe you've had to work under pressure, you worked on a team, or you did something independently and you did it excellently. So that's your opportunity to sell yourself in that area. So we're done with personal statement, SOP, CV. Is there anything I am missing, sir?
Yeah, what is a good letter of recommendation?
Oh, yes, letters of recommendation. I always tell people, find people who don't just pick professors randomly to write letters of recommendation for you, because they will probably just write something. I don't know if that makes sense. They probably just write something so that you don't keep bothering them. Find professors that have confidence in you and they can express that confidence in writing. Your recommenders, and these are people who can vouch for you. So if you're asked to submit 3 recommendations, I would strongly say maybe make sure that all 3 are your professors who have taught you. Or at the very worst, 2 of them should be professors who have taught you. Not professors who just know you. Because I've had to write recommendation letters to some people and they would ask me specifically the course I taught them, how they did in that particular course. Do you understand that? And things like that. So look for professors who are willing to, take the extra steps. Now, recommendation letters come in 2 ways now from school. Some schools would just ask professors, your recommenders, if they want to write a whole letter or just tick a yes or no, yes or no. Now, it is better for you if you have someone who is willing to do both for you, to tick the yeses and the nos and also write a letter. Because the fact that that person is even taking that extra effort to do both for you is a good signal. And they have to highlight your strengths. If they write it like, he's a good student, is this, is that, that's not enough. That's not what we're looking for. That's why we say strong recommendation letters. That's what you need. People who can talk about how who can talk about you as a student and you as a student that takes initiatives. For example, maybe when you were in school, did you do something with the SUG, and at the same time you did well in class, and there's a professor that you had that knows about these things, that can make references to both, that you excelled as a student and you also excelled, that you excelled as a student in your academics, and that you also excelled as a student in extracurricular activities. You may make those claims, but when they also reinforce those claims, then that's good. So, emphasis on the fact that find people who can write. And when I say professor, I mean lecturers here in the US. So I'm not saying you should go and look for people who they must have attained full professor. That's not what I'm saying. I mean lecturers, as long as they taught you. Do you get that? As long as they taught you and they can vouch strongly for you, use them. So don't pick random professors. And this is a call. I just dealt with a student recently, and unfortunately she lost the opportunity. And what happened? She got admission. She was processing school and she got admission, and she needed funding. I asked her to email the department for funding. She sent the email to the department and they responded saying, her GPA is very strong. From Nigeria, she has a GPA of 4.1 something already without West evaluation. So, with West evaluation, that would even be way better. She had the funding and everything. And the department said, she had the admission, and the department replied to say, if she can provide just 3 recommendation letters, they will give her guaranteed full funding. for a master's, not a PhD. That's where the girl had the problem. She already has admission. They have written an email that all they need is, and they even wrote it there that this is just for formality's sake. Just in case, for record purposes, just have people send us recommendation letters. It doesn't even have to be strong at this point. We know you are good, fine, whatever. We want to, we've given you full funding. Then I told her, fine, now reach out to 3 of your professors. And she was like, sorry to say this in Yoruba, but this slang we use in Nigeria. Me at town professors, me I can rap. Which basically means that she was this kind of girl that was not, she didn't have a good working relationship with any of her professors all through university years. If you are still in school and you don't, if you have 1 semester left, please go develop a good rapport. Because you will need them to help you if you are coming here. I'm just telling you the truth. Go and develop it, go and just rework it so that you can go back to them for all this kind of little things. Don't think you are done with them and that's it. They can go to whatever. They are not going anywhere. You will need them after you graduate. That's the truth. Because I don't see, in the nearest future, I don't think any system in America is going to stop requesting recommendation letters. So please, make sure you're not just a good student academically. Make sure that your professors are noticing you as a good student to the point that they can put in a good word strongly for you. So it's very important. And when I say professors, I mean lecturers. Even if they don't have PhDs yet, as long as they taught you at university level, they are considered professors here. They are respected. So I think I have, I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. And I was going to say something really quickly about if you want to apply to a course that is different from your undergrad, it is possible in some cases. So for someone like me, I studied English in Nigeria. Right now, I am doing health communication and public relations. And throughout my years of study, when I was doing English in Nigeria, I did, in fact, public relations just started as a course in Nigeria. The Nigerian Universities Commission just approved it as a specialization that can be started in Nigeria, maybe like some 3-4 years ago. And I left college like some 15 years ago, something like that. Yeah. So what I'm saying is it is possible in some cases, in cases such that your undergrad kind of prepared you, maybe it's one of the aspects, maybe not a core aspect, but at least one of the aspects of the new field you're going into. So for example, you can be in communication without good writing skills, good communication skills, grammar, literary skills, and those are the things that I got as a student in English. So that's why I could switch to communication and specialize in public relations, and also specialize in health communication. So you get that. So even though English and mass comm are different fields entirely, they still have some kind of meeting points. So you can do your master's in a different field, provided that there are some, at least some meeting points between your previous discipline and the new discipline that you're coming into. So it's not like you're coming from English to medicine. That one will not work. So I just wanted to let you know, if you're thinking of a totally different field that is totally unrelated, then that's not going to work, just like Dr. Bolaniwa said. But if you are considering changing, start by changing into something that at least, mark my words, at least has a meeting point with what you were doing before. Because if you find yourself in an entirely new field with absolutely no clue, there is no way you would succeed, because you're coming to compete with other students who have extensive background in that field. So you must have, there should be some meeting points somehow. I just wanted to note that. And I think that's all that I have to say with the SOPs, with the CVs and personal statements, recommendation letters. Yeah, and that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Christie. I would like to quickly pose this question to Dr. Christie, Dr. Emma, and Dr. IBK. In cases where I've graduated maybe donkey years ago, and maybe the professors in my department have also changed, must I get 3 recommendations from the professor, even if they've left the university? Probably some of them are even dead by now. What can I do? And I've also have some extensive work experience. Can I just get 1 recommendation from the department where I graduated and 2 from my employers? How does that work in this scenario? Over to you.
I'm not sure if Dr. IBK or Dr. Emma wants to say something about that first, but well, with recommendation letters, let's say it's been years that you have left, right? Please, if it's been years that you left school, but then you have extensive job experience, make sure you emphasize that in your SOP. Please lay emphasis on that in your SOP and lay emphasis on how your current job experience is actually preparing you. So it's basically, you now have a task of making sure that you bridge the gap between what we call theory and practice. You must have at least 1 or 2 paragraphs dedicated to showing how you're bridging the gap between theory and practice, and how that practice is now preparing you for more academic work, more like a theory work. Now, you don't have access to those professors anymore. Some of them have passed and whatever. I would say now that you have extensive experience, then you should have supervisors or bosses who can write very strong letters for you. That would make up for it, and the fact that you have, this academic gap that you've had, you have filled it with industry experience. So that will also make up to a very large extent. And in my own field, we're actually looking more for people who even have some experience now, more than people who are just coming from school to school. Because we realize that everything is just becoming to be like theory in their head. They're not having the chance to. So we're looking for people who have job experience, actual job experience, especially for PhD. It's better you have some kind of intense internship or a job. So for that, just get recommendation letters from your supervisors, your immediate bosses, and make sure it's also strong recommendation letters. These people can make sure they can vouch for you. So it's understandable if your supervisors have passed, of course, that happens. Even if it's not been many years ago, it could be recently, you wouldn't have a choice at that point. So, but the thing is, even if not every professor that has ever taught you would have passed, all of them will not die at the same time. So you should be able to find at least 1 or 2. And I want to emphasize this: relationships matter a lot. Relationships matter a lot. Keep good relationships with even those who did not supervise you in the department. Let them be able to at least remember your face as my student. Something like that. Relationships matter a lot. I don't know if Dr. M1 and Dr. IBK have.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Christie. Please, somebody just put something in the chat, please. Anything you are not hearing from either myself, Dr. Mo, Dr. Christie, Dr. Ogwade, what they said in the chat about working 40 hours. Yeah, you can work 40 hours in summer, but you cannot work outside the school. There are rules in the United States. And when you do all these undercover jobs, cash only jobs, whenever you are putting in for your green card, if you get to be nabbed for doing this, you are ruining your path in the United States. So please be very careful who you listen to. Some people try to do undercover jobs. These are what we call undercover jobs. As an F1 student coming in as a student, you're only required to work in the school. If you are working outside to the school, you have to, and you are still a student, you do what they call the CPT. If you are working after you have gotten your degree, then you do what they call the OPT. So don't let anybody deceive you. And that's why we didn't just bring just anybody on this platform. So please be careful what you read. Not everything on the platform is from us. If you don't see my name, Dr. Mo, Dr. Christie, Dr. IBK, please, it's invalid. Yeah, Dr. Mo, please, can you quickly talk about the GRE?
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Christie shared a lot of light on the question that was just asked. So I don't think I have any addition on the recommendation letter. So about the GRE, I want to emphasize the importance of the GRE. I think Dr. IBK mentioned that you should apply as early as possible. I will also like to emphasize on that statement because let me quickly share with you the admission process. So when you submit your admission, the grad school will receive all your applications. They will go through your application to make sure you satisfy all the requirements the school is looking for. For example, did you make up for all the minimum GPA required? Did you make up for the GRE requirement? Most schools have a cutoff mark for the GRE, but some schools doesn't really have cutoff mark for the GRE. They leave it to the individual department to make up for the cutoff mark. So if there is a cutoff mark for the entire school, the grad school will make sure you satisfy the requirement before they even consider passing your application to the respective department you applied to. So if, for example, you applied for, you took a GRE exam and you didn't do well, so that means there is a high probability of your application not being passed down to the department you applied for, which means automatically you cannot get such a position. So if, for example, you are interested in a particular school and then you check the website and there is a cutoff mark and you had the opportunity to take your GRE as early as possible, and maybe for some reason you didn't make up for the cutoff mark, you still have the chance to retake the GRE. So you can still retake the GRE as much as possible, as long as you still have some time to submit your application document before the deadline. So that's one of the advantages of taking your GRE as early as possible, just to make sure you satisfy the cutoff mark or the requirement. And if you don't satisfy the cutoff mark and you are really interested in that particular school, you can still retake the GRE to satisfy the cutoff mark. But remember, just like what Dr. Bolari was said, even if you didn't satisfy a particular school's requirement, you can still look for another school that will still maybe be able to take your GRE score. So because you didn't satisfy a requirement for a particular school doesn't mean you have to retake the GRE. Just try to look for another school, although when you are taking your GRE, they will ask you to submit some names of schools for them to forward your result to. So if you are taking another, if you decide to change your school, then that means you have to probably maybe pay out of pocket for GRE to resend your score to that part, to other schools that you didn't include during your exam. So my what I'm trying to say here is apply as much as possible for your GRE. It gives you ample amount of time to decide and to plan well. And also, one of the main reasons why we require GRE is because one, what Dr. Christie said, we want to know how you can perform under pressure. That's one reason. The other reason is we use the GRE score to reduce the number of application pools. If, for example, the department is only given funding for 10 students, and we receive maybe 12 students, and all the 12 students satisfy the school requirement, they made up, they had a very high GPA, they also have a well-qualified GRE score. The next thing we're going to look for is how good did they perform in the GRE? So sometimes I've been in a community where we had to reduce the number of application pool using their GRE score. So we don't usually concentrate on the verbal part because we are in the Department of Mathematics. So we concentrated on the core quantitative part, and then we reduce the number of application pool based on the score, how high their quantitative part of the GRE is. So you want to do well in your GRE, so give yourself ample amount of time, prepare as early as possible, revise, study a lot, Google search a lot of materials for your GRE. I will advise you to go to the website, the GRE website. I think I posted the website online. If I'm correct, it's ets.org, ets.org/GRE. So go to their website, look at all the materials they have. They have a lot of free materials you can use to study for your GRE. Although I don't think that might be enough. You might have to end up downloading more materials online or buy some particular textbooks that might help you further your reading on the GRE. So don't just prepare for the GRE slightly, okay? The English part is not the kind of English we do in Nigeria. I mean, I've heard some students say the English part is always very complicated. Yes, and that is true. The English part is very complicated, which means you need some time, you need to devote some time on the verbal part. You need a dictionary. You need to be able to download some word that you need to memorize day and night. There are certain words you need to study for the GRE verbal part, and you cannot just study those words overnight. You need some time to study for those words and prepare for the verbal part. Most of us Nigerians do well in the quantitative part because it has to do with some arithmetic, geometric, and so on. But the verbal part is where the problem usually comes from. So give yourself a lot of time to be able to prepare for the verbal part. Download as much material as possible, buy textbooks if possible, if needed, and also revise as much as possible. Revise those verbal words in preparation for the verbal exam. So I think, yeah, that was the addition I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hemo. Dr. Christie, over to you. Sister Ayomide, please get ready for the questions. Over to you, Dr. Christie.
I was just going to say, as a quick follow-up with Dr. Emo, in case you're not in the sciences, please don't ignore the quantitative part. I know you mentioned something like those in the sciences, they require, like, they focus more on the quantitative aspect of the GRE. Yes, that's important. You cannot be applying to engineering and score 130 on the quantitative for GRE. Don't even bother, because that's the minimum you can score now anyway. So, but even in the social sciences, we are also looking out for a good score on the quantitative as well as the verbal. Why? because one of the core courses that you have to take and pass in your first semester is statistics. So you're not done with maths, even if you're in art class. I thought I was done with math because I studied English in Nigeria and I never had to do math. So I was praising God and happy until I got here. And I had to do advanced statistics 1, advanced statistics 2. And you must pass them. Those are core courses. They're not electives. You don't pass, you leave. So please, if you're coming to study mass comm or whatever, and you're preparing for the GRE, please pay attention to the quantitative aspect as well. Please, I just wanted to note that because, you know, we have this tendency, those of us in the arts and humanities, we have this tendency of believing that, you know, English, it's only my English that needs to be good as long as I can write. No, they're looking for the statistics part. I just wanted to take note of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christie. So right now we'll be going to question and answers. We've been posting questions. So Sister Ayomide, can you please give us summary of the questions and we can go really fast.
Okay, yeah, so I've highlighted some of the major questions. One question is to Dr. Mo, and it's the question says, should I write the GRE when I have identified schools to apply to, or can I write it before I begin my application?
Yeah, I would say the first thing you need to do is to identify the school of your interest. You don't just like we've been talking about, especially what Dr. Christie said. You don't just want to submit an application blindly, hoping that, well, they will just take my application because I'm that good, because my undergraduate degree GPA is that high. No. So first, you need to be able to state in your recommendation letter, in your statement of purpose, why you are applying to a particular school. Why are you interested in this program? So you need to spend some time looking for schools to apply to. And one of the ways to know which school to apply to is if they are doing a course related to what you're interested in. So you want to be able to write those schools down. For example, I did my PhD in Florida, so I know some good schools in mathematics or in applied mathematics. So you want to probably just search for applied mathematics in Florida, and then Google search will give you some list. Start clicking the list. If you're interested in differential equations, go to the Department of Mathematics in each of that list and then see what the faculty members are doing. Every school, okay, maybe I shouldn't say every school in the United States. Most schools in the United States has information about their faculty members online. And most schools also have information about the research of the faculty members on their website. So you can Google search most schools in the United States, go to the department you're looking for, Department of Mathematics, click on the tab that says faculty members or faculty, scroll through each of the faculty members, click on their research interests, see what they've done so far or what they are currently doing. Which one are you interested in? If there is a particular faculty members you like to work with, then note the name of that school. That's probably one of the schools you should apply to. That's one of the factors you need to look for when looking for schools to apply to. Don't just write your GRE blindly, because you will be asked to state some schools when you are writing the GRE exam. I think it's about 3 to 5 schools. They will ask you to list 3 to 5 schools you are interested in, and they will, free of charge, help you to send your results to those schools. So know which schools you are applying to, okay, before you even start writing your GRE exam.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Emo. Yeah, please go ahead, Sister Ayomide.
Okay, this person asked, I am an MSc holder with a low pass grade. When be applying for another MSc, should I mention my former MSc?
Yes, it will be an advantage to you, because if, for example, you're applying for a program in my department and you included in your CV or in your statement of purpose that you've had an MSc program before in mathematics, then I know that you are not just a fresh student in this discipline or in this area of study. So you will probably be one of the top candidates in the application pool, because they know that you have an experience in the area of study. You are not, they won't be comparing you with maybe fresh students or fresh undergraduate students or fresh master's student. So always try as much as possible to include every little information about yourself, all your accomplishments. Having another master's degree is an accomplishment, even if you didn't have a good score in it. Just tell them what you did during that master's program, what you excel in doing, and how your experience in that program has prepared you for the future to come. So I think it will be a good advantage for your application if you can mention that, because if for master's degree, well, we are mainly interested in how prepared, how matured are you to be successful in the program you're about to embark on. So if you can convince me that you've had a knowledge before in another master's program and you think you're ready to pursue this particular program with the help of what you've gathered in the past, then that would be a good conviction for you to get such an admission.
Thank you, sir. The next question is also open for anyone. Is it possible for courses that are not science related to get fully funded scholarships either at the master's or PhD level?
Yes, it's possible to get funded. The only thing is most of the courses that are not usually funded or have good funding are usually like public health. They have funding, but it's not like chemistry. For example, if you're applying to chemistry graduate program, you have over 90% chance. If you get admitted, you have over 90% chance of getting full funding, but it's not the same in public health. And also areas like MBA or management related courses. And I think that the reason why there's not a lot of funding in those areas is that, you know, when you graduate from such programs, you are more or less a big boy. You understand what I'm trying to say? So there's a lot of money. For example, if you're doing medicine, for example, when you become a medical doctor, your salary is almost twice or thrice of an average person, you know. So a lot of them, even US citizens that go in for medical school to become medical doctors, they usually go for loan, but you know, by the time they start working and things like that, they can pay off the loan in a jiffy because they are well paid, basically. But you know, apart from management related, finance related, you know, that really have a lot of money when they graduate and they have to access loan. I mean, those that go to business school, I believe other courses really have very good chances of getting funded. For example, Dr. Christie benefited from funding. I have a friend who is on his PhD in sociology. He's fully funded and is doing good. So a lot of things like that, but there is a lot of funding in science related, STEM, science, you know, mathematics, engineering, and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. This next question is to Dr. Christie. This person said, my job is not related to my study area. I am a high school teacher, but I want to be a PhD student.
Okay, the person is a high school teacher teaching what?
The person did not specify.
What do they want to do the PhD in? You know, so that question cannot be answered except to provide more more details, more context to that. So I can be a high school teacher teaching and I want to come, yeah. So for example, let's say I'm teaching in high school, teaching something, whatever it is, and I want to come and study educational management. With my extensive experience as a teacher, I'm a good candidate for educational management PhD. I don't know if that makes sense, but the person needs to provide more context, like just so it is possible in some cases. In that person's specific case, I can't tell because I don't have enough information to assess the situation. Thank you.
Okay. Next question for Dr. Christie is, what is the difference between an SOP and motivation letter?
It's just nomenclature, it's just title, it's the same thing. The statement of purpose, your purpose is what is motivating you. So many schools would say the same thing. We're looking for the same content, motivation letter, statement of purpose. Both of them are asking you why. Both of them are just asking the question, why? Why do you want to study this? Why do you want to come here to study it? The only thing that is not asking why is personal statement. The personal statement is asking, who are you? Your statement of purpose and motivation letter, both of them are asking why. Your personal statement is asking, who are you? It's as simple as that. They're going to find so many kind of titles and names for it depending on schools. It's just that the most popular one is statement of purpose. Yeah.
Okay. Next question for Dr. M.O. What is the best structure in terms of paragraphs for an SOP?
Yeah, okay. So I would say, I think Dr. Christie will have, well, much more addition to this than me. But for an SOP, I would say you should have at least 3 different sections. The first section should be an introduction, okay? This is where you introduce yourself. Why are you interested in the program you're applying to? Who are you? And then where are you coming from? What's your background? And what is motivating you to apply for the program you're applying to? Or what is motivating you to apply for a graduate school? Or are you just applying for graduate school because you couldn't find job immediately after your undergraduate? So introduction should encompass all those information I just mentioned. We want to know exactly who you are, why you are interested in the program, and the motivation behind you applying for the program. The second section will contain the body, which is basically your relevant experience and your accomplishment relating to the program you're applying to. So tell us your experience, tell us your accomplishments, and convince us how independent you could be, how you can manage your time, your professional goals as it relates to the program you're applying to, and why you are interested in applying to the school. So the second section should be the body of the SOP, and the last one will be your conclusion, just a brief summary of the information presented in the body in the second section you wrote, and then try to emphasize your qualifications and how compatible you are with the school. So introduction part, the body part, and the conclusion part. I don't know if Dr. Christie wants to add to that.
You did a good job. So I'm just going to share something real quick, share my screen so that people can see. I'm sorry, I'm just so bad at, I'm just so bad at talking without showing. So can anyone see my screen here? You see this document?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Look at this. Look at this document. Like Dr. Emo said, you start with introduction. And as part of the introduction, what I want you to say here, because this is SOP, is talk about introduce yourself professionally. That's what I'm saying. So this is a sample that I wrote maybe like some 9-10 years ago. You introduce yourself professionally here. This is what I'm doing. And it's everything I said there is related to public relations that I was going to do. When you get to the body, like I said earlier, after your introduction, then go to the body. In the body is where you get the chance to talk about your previous degrees, the specific things you have done. Let's look at here. I talked about my 3rd year in college. There's something that happened there that I could connect. That's my 3rd year in undergrad. That's what I'm talking about. So be specific. I'm also going to come here. I'm trying to show something else here. Sorry. You see here where I talked about these specific courses, not all the courses that I took in school, semiotics and critical discourse analysis. I know how these courses link, you know, in your SOP, in the body. I'm just trying to highlight. You can put this in any order when it comes to the body, but you start with the introduction that should be professional. Now within the body, you prioritize whatever you want them to hear first about you, you know, because that's going to set the tone for how they're going to read the rest of the statement of purpose. You know, you do that. Like I did an analysis, it was never published, but I still mentioned it because it made sense. A class seminar, I did a lot of class seminars, but I really mentioned these ones that focused on political congress speeches because I knew I was applying to what public relations. And political PR is part of public. So I needed to let them know that I was preparing myself also to be a good fit. You put that in your statement of purpose. Any certifications that you have, any proficiencies that you have, you can talk about the ones that are relevant. Please don't write there that you know how to use Microsoft Word. Everybody knows how to do that already. Be very specific. Like I have a certificate course in project management, that's good. Now, when I said I like your industry accomplishments here, if you look at what I'm trying to highlight here, it's not highlighting, I don't know, but it starts from this statement where I talked about working at a company before and what I did. In a short period that I worked here, I was able to draw a strategic 1-year marketing communication plan for the company, and I worked there only 3 months. Do you get that? You put that in the body of your SOP. So just follow that sequence like that, build it up from the, you know, you can start from the little concepts to the big concepts or from the big ones to the smaller ones, whichever one that you think will catch their attention the most. So basically what I'm saying is put your best foot forward. Right after the first paragraph where you introduce yourself, put your best foot forward. That's what I was saying. You're not talking about everything, but you're putting your best foot forward. Then you should talk about why you're applying to that specific school. That's what I did in this very short paragraph right here. Talk about your long-term future goals. You know, how do you think this degree that you're coming to get at this school is going to be useful and things like that. And then the conclusion, like a conclusion statement, it could be anything. Like maybe mine was just as simple as I just look forward to using this back in my home country and what I think it's going to do or not do and things like that. The final paragraph it's good. It's just to give everything closure, just like Dr. Emwa said. That's where you just give everything closure. But start with a professional introduction of yourself, go to the body. In the body, put your best foot forward. And I suspect that another question is going to be, how long should my SOP be? Some schools will indicate how many pages they want. Like I said, they don't have all the time in the world to read SOPs these days. There are too many applicants and they have other things to do as well. Some will specify, and when they specify, please do not exceed the limit. If they say 2 to 3 pages, please don't do 5 pages. I know we like to show as Nigerians. We want to impress them to let them know we are serious. But please, don't exceed 3 pages when they say 2 to 3 pages. So that's why I said you need to be concise. If at all they say something like 1 to 2 pages, at that point, within the body of your SOP, make sure that you're just identifying the most significant of your highlights. It's just like if I ask you now, since you were born, what are the things you have achieved? You're not going to give me from year to year, age 1, age 2, age this, age that. Some of you will still probably make reference to your primary school. I was the health prefect. But for some people, they've had so many other accomplishments that primary school accomplishments are no longer, they're no longer big deals. So what I would say is in the body, talk about the big deals, the most current big deals about you, and then go to the conclusion. So it's basically introduction, body, and conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Christie. Also, Dr. Christie, there's a follow-up on the question about the high school teacher. The person has provided more information. So the person says they are a high school teacher in biology and they want to pursue a PhD in microbiology. And so their question was about what they should include on their SOP because they are unrelated.
I wouldn't say they are unrelated. Biology, microbiology is related. Over to you, Dr. Christie.
No, honestly, you just answered it. Why are they unrelated? Biology, I think microbiology, I'm not in the sciences, but my husband is, and I think microbiology is a subsect within biology as a whole. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't see why that's a problem at all.
Okay.
Yeah. And given being a teacher, even coming in with extensive teaching experience, that's something to even, hang on to when you're writing your SOP. And if they're trying to give out teaching assistantship, given her extensive teaching experience, she will be a good candidate given her teaching experience. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So our last question is, this is open to anyone. Where can I get a scholarship that funds for full tuition abroad as well as accommodation?
See, everything we have said is about getting, when we say funding, is talking about full scholarships. And I've just told you, it depends on the requirement of the school. The school, some schools will say once you apply to their program, you will be considered for funding. Once you hear anything funding or TA or RA or GA, they are talking about full funding. And as I said earlier, it's a complete package. When they say you are being fully funded, that means you will get what we call tuition waiver, which is an average of $11,000 every semester that the school will pay for you. You get health insurance so that perhaps you're sick, your health insurance will cover an appreciable part of what you would have paid when you go to the doctor. Then it consists of monthly stipend. They call it stipend, but stipend in our context is just like a salary. Some schools pay your stipends monthly, and some schools pay your stipend bi-weekly, that is every 2 weeks, you get your salary. And all these things, when you get your stipend, usually your stipend is kind of measured by the standard of living of the place you are. For example, you can be in Georgia and they're giving you $20,000 per annum, which could translate to like $1,500 every month. And you will be better off than somebody in California getting $30,000, because a room in Georgia is like $400 for a student, and in California is about $1,000. So all those things are regulated. So when we say funding or graduate assistantship or teaching assistantship or research assistantship, they are just more of scholarships in Nigerian language. Over to you.
Okay, those are all of our questions. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so is that all our questions? That is good. So one thing I'm going to say is I just posted a link on Nairaland. It was a thread that I made in 2014. It's still relevant till today. And it's if maybe you missed an aspect of this presentation, go to the thread, click on it. I have over 40,000 views, on it. Click on it. There's an email there. You can write me an email, and another thing I do is you can follow me on Twitter. I post, daily opportunities if I get them on my LinkedIn of professors looking for students. Please don't just say, oh, I need a position in biology. I just post any position that I see. My Twitter handle is at Dafem Lions. You can follow me on Twitter. You can send me a message on Twitter. Please note, I'm not on Twitter 24 hours. I have my regular job. I will only answer your questions as I have time, So if you have questions, you can ask. But if you're reading that thread on Nairaland, please don't just read what I wrote alone. Read the entire thread from the beginning to the end, because people ask subsequent questions that I also answered on the thread, So, someone just sent me a message, as regards undergraduate students, there are some people that have, been able to come from Nigeria, any African country or from all over the world to schools here for undergraduate to do their undergrad, and they also got a full ride scholarship, but you have to do well in your SAT, so that is part of it too. And you can also Google, undergraduate plus US universities plus full scholarship. Put it in Google, you'll find a lot of things about it. Read more about them, their requirements, and things like that. So now that we don't have any more questions, I'll like to hand over to our Father in the Lord, Pastor Emmanuel Falodun. Thank you once again, sir, for this opportunity. And I want to say thank you to my friends and colleagues, Dr. M.O., Dr. Christie, Dr. IBK, Dr. Noble, thank you for handling the Zoom. Sister Ayomide, thank you also for handling the question and answer session. We want to appreciate everybody. Please, if you have follow-up questions, I'm on Twitter. You can follow me. I will not be able to give you my cell phone contact. I don't want to be bombarded with calls and messages, but honestly, I'll get to your questions on Twitter. I can also ask questions on Nairaland. I still check the threads and I still answer questions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I want to believe that everyone that hooked up with this meeting today must have learned something. I have learned a lot because I also intend to pursue my academics. I'm not tired yet. When Dr. Christie was speaking about relationship and having people to recommend you, I quickly looked for one of my lecturers in the University of Lagos, and I began to message her, thanking her for what she did for me some years back. And she was so excited. She responded and said, I don't remember what you're talking about, but I appreciate that you can reach out to me. So I'm already working on what we have learned. And I believe somebody also is working on something, because that is the primary essence of this meeting, so that you can just look at what to do instead of complaining, instead of whining, and instead of only praying. You need to know what steps to take, what direction to follow. So I want to sincerely and wholeheartedly appreciate you, sir. Dr. Femi, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I want to thank Dr. Emo, Dr. Christie, and the other doctor. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Sister Ayomide. Thank you, Dr. Noble. Thank you for making the time. I was worried about what to give in appreciation, and my heart came to rest when Dr. Femi asked me not to worry. So I want to tell everybody, this is a voluntary and willful contribution to our lives. I wish we can all just clap for them and celebrate them where we are, thanking them for making out time, because this is a precious time they have given us today. We are not taking this for granted. We are so grateful that you are willing to assist other people, to rise. And I hope that in the next 1-2 years, we'll begin to see people who would have moved to the US as a result of this information. And Dr. Femi, sir, I want to say that this will not be the last session. I'm already thinking of a follow-up, session, because I know those who thought we were joking with this will hear of what has been done. We have a recording of what we are doing. We will see how much we can spread this, because we really want people to know that there are legitimate ways to travel out of Nigeria and do something worthwhile with our lives. Are you giving us a yes with that note, sir?
Yes, sir. But one thing I just want us to note is the academic system in the United States is not like Nigeria. It's very rigorous. And that is why we can only do this kind of program in summertime, because the assistant professors, they are busy, but not as busy during this the spring and the fall session. Summer, they do a lot of research and things like that. So they're a little bit flexible, but during the regular session, it could be really crazy, because they all have graduate students, and they have to, attend to each of their graduate students personally when it comes to research. They have teaching duties. They have to attend to each and every of their students that comes with questions. And because the classes they teach may be large, that is why all this teaching assistant opportunity comes in, so that they can shed some of those workload on their teaching assistant to help, individual students, So, well, it will be a yes by God's grace, and but it's more convenient to be able to get this done during the summer than during fall or spring, And I want you to know
we're going to be working with your convenient time. We will not overburden you in any way. Okay. But thank you for that. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Once again, I want to thank our speakers. Thank you for pouring your hearts. Thank you for sharing from your experience. I want to thank Lekon, David, Onyeka, and those guys at home that have really helped to really push this. My wife is not here online. She has also been very supportive. I want to thank her. And to everyone out there, well, the top achievers, here all we want to do is to see how all of us can get to the top, because there's a lot of space at the top. And so you can visit our website, www.thethopachievers.org. We hope to update the websites very soon. And I think we have the phone numbers of most of those that are online with us, so we can reach you and see how we can connect. If you have follow-up questions, we can also help you link up with Dr. Femi and other people that have shared with us. I think we can close with a word of prayer. Our Father and our God, we want to thank you so much for helping us this far today. Thank you for the experiences and information that have been shared. It is our prayer that this will not be a waste of the time of our resource persons and our own time. I pray, Lord God of heaven and earth, that everyone that have been on this meeting and those who will listen later, we will all be able to glean and work with something that in months from now, we will begin to see the results in the name of Jesus. Whatever might have been barriers and obstacles on our way, we command them to be cleared by the fire of the Lord in the name of Jesus. This is the second half of 2022 that we are just starting. I pray for everyone on this line that the Lord Almighty will make way for you in the wilderness and rivers in your desert. I pray that the impossibles will become possible. And for our resource persons, I pray that the Lord will continue to lift you higher, help you to break more grounds, help me to achieve more greatness. Those dreams, those aspirations that you also are still aiming at, the Lord will make it easy for you to attain them in the name of Jesus. It will be well with you. It will be well with your home. It will be well with your calling. It will be well with your profession. It will be well with your ministry in the name of Jesus. I pray for everyone that has contributed to the success of today's meeting. May the Lord Almighty stand with you and stand for you and stand by you and give you victory on all sides in the name of Jesus. And for all of us, help us to get to the top. And when we get there, help us to help others to get there. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, speakers. God bless you. God bless everyone. We'll meet again some other time. God bless you. Amen.